Welcome to the SMITE Conquest tutorial for Season 4, where we go over all the basics of the map, all the changes that have occurred in Season 4, the new starts for all roles, and so on. My name is DukeSloth, but this wouldn't have been possible without the help of the pro player Mask, so feel free to check him out. His links will be at the end of the video. I would greatly appreciate if you support him because he really helped me with this complete guide. As a disclaimer ahead, I will obviously not be able to cover everything for everyone. I will have a lot of external links for additional resources. There are some things that are still in the works that will be linked to later. And also all of this is subject to change, especially as we are pretty early in the season, so many things about Conquest can still be changed with the upcoming patches. With that said, let's jump into Conquest. If you've played Conquest before, you should be familiar with the objectives. We will quickly go over them once again. First, we see the Order Titan, which is the Titan you will have to defend when playing on the Order side. If you're playing on the Chaos side, it's the Chaos Titan that you'll have to defend. Killing the enemy Titan is what ultimately wins you the game, so you want to defend your Titan at all cost. The Titan is defended by different structures. The first one of those is the Phoenix, which is the only one that can respawn after being destroyed. However, when respawning after being destroyed, the Phoenix will only have half of his health. Beyond that, every lane has 2 towers, which can be destroyed as well, as you can see here. These towers do not respawn. On the other side, you have the enemy towers that you're ultimately aiming to destroy in order to push forward to the enemy Phoenix and then the enemy Titan. In order to get to the Titan, you will have to farm effectively, you will have to fight enemies, you will have to fight over objectives, and you will have to lane for a very long time as long as you're not playing a jungler. We're gonna get into the lanes and specifics later on. Let's first look into the jungle a little bit and talk about the different objectives that we have there and the different camps and what they do. For that, we will first look at the long lane side of the map, which is where the towers are further apart, often referred to as the duo lane side as well. You can just look into the top right corner where you will see the minimap, which indicates where on the map the camera is on right now. It's the yellow arrow. The first camp we're looking at are the back harpies. The back harpies consist of 2 smaller harpies and 1 bigger harpy, which is kind of content of ball here at the moment. And those give a decent amount of experience and gold. Now more gold than before and less experience, but are still very much worth killing overall. These are typically picked up by the jungler, and they are the only resource for him that purely gives XP and gold. The next camp is the damage buff. This buff gives you a damage increase both percentage-wise as well as in direct power, which will last 2 minutes as any of the other standard buffs will as well. You have 2 smaller Cyclopses and the 1 big buff-holding Cyclops, and after killing the big buff-holding Cyclops, anyone on your team can pick up the buff that drops to the ground. This camp gives a very high amount of XP and a decent amount of gold, so the camps for buffs should generally be prioritized. The next buff is the purple buff. The purple buff provides the wielder with an aura within 55 units of him, which reduces enemies' protections by 10 each, both magical and physical protection. Different from the damage buff, you will often find this buff on melee-focused characters or tankier characters simply because the aura requires you to be relatively close to your enemy. Our next stop is in the center of the duo lane side of the map, right between the middle lane and the duo lane and in the center between the 2 towers. Here we have the Oracle Furies. These are the strongest Furies in the game aside of the Gold Fury, which is right behind them, and they are relatively tanky because they provide you with a special benefit. This is a ward. When you kill both of these harpies with your team and the enemy doesn't take one of the kills, then you will be rewarded with vision of the Gold Fury. That means you essentially get a free ward on the Gold Fury for 90 seconds that the enemy team cannot destroy. While the reward for killing the Oracle Harpies is decent, they are a bit problematic for the jungler to farm because they are so tanky, so the main priority with these is to get the extra vision and not to get the most efficient farm out of them. There are better camps for that. Behind the Oracle Harpies is the Gold Fury. The Gold Fury is a major objective on the Conquest map that will often be contested earlier in the game. I could probably make a whole video purely dedicated to the Gold Fury to talk about all the details. The most important thing here is that to kill the Oracle Harpies, you don't have to aggro the Gold Fury, so while they are close to each other, you can actually kill the Oracle Harpies and get vision without ever triggering the Gold Fury to attack you. And the Gold Fury herself gives your team a massive gold boost, as it rewards your whole team with extra gold, whereas the exact gold value depends on the time in the game. Still on the same side of the map, we will find the mid-harpies. These camps consist of two of the big harpies we've already seen in the back of the map at the back harpy camp. And these used to be among the most important camps on the map. This used to be the points where you would see early fights between the mid laners and junglers over these camps, simply because of the high XP value attached to them. However, the value was decreased this season. Due to drastic changes to the values, the mid-harpies are now the camp that gives least XP and least gold out of all camps on the map. As such, the value for those camps really isn't there as much for the jungler anymore. They will obviously still get farmed, especially since they're so close to the mid lane, but they shouldn't be a priority point anymore. The same camp exists on the other side of the map as well, the solo lane side, where the short lane exists, where the towers are closer together. The camps are pretty much identical, so I don't need to go into detail here anymore. Instead, let's move down the map to the speed buff, yellow buff, orange buff, whichever you want to call it. This buff provides the user with 20% extra movement speed, and that's it. No other extra stats on this, which used to be different in previous seasons. Other than that, the stats are the same as for all the other Cyclops camps we've seen so far. In the back behind them, we once again have a back harpy camp, just the same as the one on the other side of the map, same values, same priority, and so on. Our last buff camp stop is the blue buff. The blue buff provides the user with cooldown reduction and mana regeneration, and there is a notable difference to the other camps. While the other Cyclops camps are melee, this one is ranged, and the minions will not get pulled out by you simply attacking them from range. You'll have to walk around the corner if you want to leash the camp, as it's called, to get the minions to another position, otherwise you will just have to fight them in the spot they are in. The last frequently spawning camp on the map are the fire elementals. There are two small elementals and one bigger one, and they're often referred to as imps as well. This camp has the highest gold value out of all currently on the map. That is why it is becoming a point of early contention in the game now, because it is so important to secure this for the team, as this is one of the few camps that you have to compete with the enemy team over. Most of the other camps exist for both teams. The Vision Furies and the Elementals only exist once on the maps, so you will see a lot of fighting there, especially early in the game. With the Fire Elementals, it's also important to note that they despawn at 10 minutes, so you only have time to get them until then, and after that they will no longer respawn. Instead, at 10 minutes, another Elemental will spawn, the Portal Demon. The Portal Demon is a lot tankier, and you will usually have to kill him with at least one teammate. And what this demon does, it gives you a decent amount of gold, but also it creates a portal behind him, which will allow your team to teleport to this area from the base for a limited amount of time. The portal only lasts for a relatively limited amount of time. As of the current stand of this patch, it is 1 minute, and that's for a reason. Opposite of this portal and of the Portal Demon's area is the Fire Giant, and this is the main objective in late game. The Fire Giant rewards your team with a massive buff that gives extra power, extra regeneration, and also increases the damage versus towers and phoenixes, so structures, which is what you will have to take down late game, by 20% for 4 minutes. So it's a long-lasting buff with a lot of extra benefits for a team to close out a game. Typically, you will see teams fighting over the Fire Giant late game, or trying to sneak it with, for example, a late game Hunter, because it is just a very strong target and it has a lot of health, it reduces healing and stuff like that, so you really need to know when to attack it. At the same time, you never want to give the enemy team a Fire Giant for free, because that can easily lead to the end of the game. Before we talk about specific lanes, roads and item starts, let us quickly talk about the spawn timers. As it stands, all minions on the map spawn at 0 when the timer hits 0. Buff camps and camps in general all spawn 30 seconds into the game, the Gold Fury slightly after that. The Fire Giant and Portal Demon only spawn 10 minutes into the game. While previously spawn timers were different, we now have a meta where buff camps and camps spawn at the same time as minions clash in lane. So in most scenarios, you will have to have someone in that lane to clear up the minions before you can consider going for buff camps or for other camps. And this is very important for how you start. There are options around this, I'm going to say this, but generally you want a player in every lane at least, and usually you want as many players in the lane as the opponent has in order to keep the pressure even. Now let's look at the specific lanes. The first one we're going to look at is duo lane. Duo lane is the lane where you will definitely find some sort of hyper carry, often a hunter or a mage with attack speed focus, and you will often find a support there as well, although this is not necessarily the case. There are two potential starts in this lane. Either it is a carry and a support, or it is just the carry. I'm gonna talk about the second case first because it's simpler. It can be just the carry under certain circumstances, and if it is, then the carry will just try and push up the wave and otherwise wait for his team to help him before going anywhere, often having to play more safe as the enemy team might be there with two players. The more common case will, however, be the carry and the support being there, at least for now in the beginning of the season, where things have still not completely changed from last season and some habits are still carried over. The duo lane is still a duo lane, for most players at least. You will see some different plays, especially on higher levels of play, but for the majority of players this will apply at least for a while. In a scenario where both the support and the carry are in the duo lane, they will try and push up the first wave as quickly as possible, maybe even start at the edge of the enemy's tower, and then rotate out to either try to invade the enemy purple buff if they have a significant lead in terms of clearing the wave, or going for their own purple buff. From there, depending on how fast you are, you may look to pressure another wave, you may potentially consider trying to get the Oracle Furies for vision, and other than that, you spend most of your time in lane until the support decides to rotate out more. This start really facilitates getting pressure in lane and getting your buff safely, and you will often get the purple buff on the support here simply because he makes more use out of the aura, and it will also help other lanes when the support rotates out, whereas the ADC on his own can not make as much use of the buff. When you get control of both buffs, then you should consider giving one of them to your ADC, so the ADC can get more pressure in lane on his own as well. Now that we've talked about the roles in this lane, let's talk about the possible starter items and starts for these roles. I would call this the most common and plausible starts. There will be other starting items that will be developed throughout the season, but these are those that are somewhat tested at this point that you can't really go completely wrong with. For carries or physical hunters in this case, the most common start will almost always include a death toll. This will often be combined with boots simply because they allow you to get your build online relatively quickly and also get some potions on top of that. Another start that might see in return is Bluestone Pendant plus boots. This is more for early aggression because it allows you for faster clear, but Mask thinks that this is gonna be too lackluster due to the lack of HP and sustain, and it's too easy to get poked out. I think the MP5 may be a point for this, and certain ability hunters really just need that little bit of extra damage for clear, so we'll see how it pans out. It will definitely not be as popular as the Death Toll start. The third option is the Transcendence Rush. If we end up having characters that actually still need Transcendence, then this would be the start for them, but with the changed Death Toll, it might be possible that that won't even be the case. For supports, the most common starter item will definitely be Watcher's Gift, which is a great item to have on pretty much any support. What you combine this with depends a little bit. An option that many will go for is Boots simply because it allows for a higher amount of potions. If your support can just get away with multi-potions or mana potions, for example, then you can consider getting Chalice of the Oracle along with Watcher's Gift at the start in order to just have an extra few wards early on in the game and not have to spend anything on singular wards. And there is the option that War Flag might be viable for warrior supports at some point in the season, depending on how it gets changed and so on, maybe combined with Watcher's Gift. There are also some supports currently testing out Watcher's Gift plus Bamba's Mask. I personally doubt it's gonna be all that effective simply because the support would have to last hit the camps himself, but it is out there, so I'm throwing it out there as an option. Again, these are just the most common choices, but they should give you an overview of what you can build if you have no idea what to build yet. From the duo lane, let's move to the middle lane. The middle lane is a little shorter, so waves clash earlier here. This is important because this means that if you get pressure in middle lane, you can rotate out somewhere else a little bit quicker. As such, I wouldn't say it's completely off the table that we will see some junglers even starting here, or that we will see support starting here, which we have already seen on higher levels of play. The potential to clear this lane first allows your team to build up pressure, for example, on the enemy buffs by invading, so getting a lead here can be quite devastating for the enemy team. However, as it currently stands, you will see the mid laner being on his own quite often for at least a while. And because of that, the potential of the mid laner on his own is very limited. He can clear the wave, and if he's got good clear, then he can rotate between waves in order to either help with elementals or do mid HARPIES on his own or something like that. Just try to create some early pressure somewhere, but where he goes really depends on the rest of his team, how the situation is and who is coming towards him. He will get his red buff much later than we are used to from the previous seasons, simply because it's not going to be done at the start of the game, and other buffs are more important to secure for certain roles. If the mid laner ends up getting help from somebody else, then it's very likely that he can look for an invade on red, and if not, that he can look to secure both mid camps along with whoever is helping him. If he's with the jungler, the rotations are going to be a little different because the jungler will probably look for something on the right side, either the elementals or the speed buff. But if he's with a support, he can then try to secure the Oracle HARPIES as well. Once again, due to the fact that the lanes clash a little earlier here, you will be able to get these before anyone could rotate out from duo if the clear time is the same. The starter items for mages really depend on who you're playing and who you're playing against. All three of the common starter items have their own value. Vampiric Shroud allows for the most sustain and survivability, Soulstone for the highest damage, and Sands of Time gives you that extra MP5 and cooldown reduction. Along with that, you typically want to start with a tier 1 item, for example Lost Artifact, Tiny Trinket, Druid Stone, Imperial Helmet, Soul Reliquary, or Uncommon Sash. The starting item that you're going for really depends on your god and also on what starter item you're getting. For example, if you have Soulstone, then you might want to look for something that has MP5 on it in order to make up for the lack of MP5 on that item. There is also consideration for the start with Bamba's Mask along with one of the other starters, because it still gives MP5 and gives you a little more extra gold from the mid HARPIES, a little more sustain. This is something that can be kept in mind. I doubt it's gonna be all that effective for most players. And now it's time to move to the last lane, the solo lane. In or around the solo lane, you will typically find the jungler and the solo laner early on in the game. The standard start as of now is both the jungler and the solo laner starting in lane and trying to build up as much pressure as possible by possibly even pushing in the waves at the edge of the tower and then trying to rotate out after clearing the wave before the enemy team. When they get this pressure, they are able to secure the elementals relatively safely, and then move back to lane, farm on there, move to the blue buff and get that, and then go back to lane or move on to the speed buff, depending on how you want to do it. Mostly you will see the solo laner going back to lane, whereas the jungler goes to speed buff. Now, in this context, it's important to note that this is just the most basic starting option. There are various other options. For example, if the solo laner thinks he can keep up the pressure in solo on his own, the jungler can actually start at elementals on his own to make sure the enemy team won't have the possibility to contest that at all. You can also sacrifice the elementals and say that they're too risky to pick up for you and just go for your buffs. Or you can look for the enemy jungle and look to invade. You can even try something like starting at the enemy speed buff while they are in lane, so they won't expect it and get it taken away by your jungler on his own, whereas the solo laner's in lane or something like that. There are many options around here, but the most popular one for now will definitely be two people starting in solo lane, just to make sure that you get some wave pressure, you share that XP as good as possible, and then can see how successful you can go on from there. All the other starts are just riskier options that require more ballsy strategies basically, and will sometimes even require items like Hog to be picked up. What you don't want to have happening is losing pressure in lane entirely, for example by going to the elementals with two people and then coming back to lane when the minions are already pushing into tower, because that means that you are a very easy target for invades, and that's something you want to avoid. As for the item starts, most of the starts for solo laners will include a starter item and boots. This allows to get more potions and it allows you to advance your build faster, so it's pretty much the standard. The starter item itself depends more on the character you're playing. Death Toll is gonna be the standard for many. Some warriors still make good use of Bluestone Pendant, some make good use of Mark of the Vanguard. This also applies for Guardian being played in solo lane. And Swift Wing may find its place on those who are not looking for that much aggression but want to get back to lane as fast as possible. There may be other starts later down the road with something like tier 2 items which are partially cheaper now, for example Tower Shield rushing into something, but for now I think at least most of these starts will include at least a starter item in order to get that extra sustain or health or whatever in lane. For junglers, the most common start seem to be 2 starter items. One of them will always be Bumba's Mask. There is no way around it really, because this item is just so potent for junglers at this point. In addition to that, you can go Death Toll for more early sustain, and this is pretty much advisable on most characters simply because it allows you to clear the jungle without backing as often, it allows you to take more fights, and it gives you some great early game stats. Those guards who are very ability focused can get Bluestone Pendant instead, otherwise still going for Bumba's Mask, simply the same thing with some extra early damage in sacrifice of some sustain. Another option is going for tier 2 boots. This is something that's advisable for those characters who do need to get their build online as fast as possible and are not looking for that much aggression early on, but rather just to farm as much as possible. There is also Rangda's Mask. I personally would not recommend building Rangda's Mask at the start of the game, and Mask is of the same opinion here, which is down to the fact that you can still get Rangda's Mask effectively after boots, and if you fall behind, you're gonna have much less problems that way because you can just avoid building it all together after you have finished some core essential items for your god. It's still not too late to get it then, you will still get your stacks if the game's going alright for you, so that should not be a problem. Magical junglers will typically get Bumba's Mask plus Sands of Time, which just usually makes most sense for a jungler. If you want to look deeper into these starter options, Mask has made a great video on the new jungle start, which I will link right here. You can go check that out and it will give you a lot more in-depth info on that topic specifically. With that, we're coming to the end of the Conquest Guide, giving you an overview of everything you need to know. We've covered all the objectives on the map, the lanes in general, and who starts where in most scenarios and what they should probably build at the start. I hope this helps you getting into Season 4 without too much confusion and too many questions, and I hope this was insightful for you. If you like this video, if you appreciated the work I put into this, then feel free to leave a subscription here. I'm gonna do plenty more guides for Season 4. I already started doing item guides on the new best changed items, which can be linked right here, I think, if I still have a link left. And yeah, feel free to support this channel in any way. I would greatly appreciate it. Also, please go check out Mask, who helped me with this video. He's got a great YouTube channel where he uploads daily gameplay, mostly jungle, mostly ranked, and I think this is very helpful, especially when you're looking to improve your own game, to have that commentary for you. With that, thank you guys for watching. Feel free to leave a like, a comment down below on how you felt about this guide, a sub. DukeSloth, out.